Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Morning, guys.
Hey Gilbert. Judith, I couldn't hear you when you spoke. No, not that time either. But I did hear Gilbert.
You're still muted, Judy.
But I think she wasn't a second ago. Hmm. Again.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm looking at the meeting doc. Let's run through the action items from last time. I know I have a couple that I did not get to. So I was going to send an email about scheduling the API work group meeting, but Judith did that instead, which is awesome of her. Thank you, Judith. So we got that scheduled, and I think it was March 6th. The first one is going to happen. Were you planning on coming to that, Gilbert?
Yes, sure.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was one that interested you or not, but
yeah. I think we don't have a very clear schedule, like how often the working group meeting happens, but it will be on demand, right? And yeah, I'm pretty sure I will attend the API working group. We have a lot of API changes from containerization.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the items we can discuss in the first one is what we want the schedule to be like. But I think doing it on demand sounds good to me too.
Yeah. I don't have a very clear idea, but in the mailing list we have each working group prefixed by WG and into different categories like API or containerization. So I would say because every other part, it can if we have some API changes, or we have any proposal from API design, anyone could send out an email to schedule working group meeting. What do you think?
Testing.
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey, Judith.
Hello, what did I miss?
Not much. We were just going through action items for last time. Thank you for sending out the scheduling email for the API working group.
Of course.
Yeah, Gilbert, that sounds like a good plan to me. As people have items for approval or for people to consider, we could just let them build up maybe and then have a meeting when we have enough to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's we can probably discuss that during the first group meeting.
Yep.
So I also had an action item to send out the monthly community email, and I was planning on having done that already for the meeting, but I have not. Luckily, there's still a couple days left in February. So I will send one out today or tomorrow. So I'll just make it a quick one with an update about the release. And Gilbert, I'll bother you and Ben Mahler to see if there are any working group updates that I should also.
Yeah.
But I'll fire off a quick email in the next day or two.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, I was also going to email people about like soliciting blog posts, and I didn't do that either. So I'll get that done before our next meeting here. And Benjamin, I can ping Ben about his action items. He's gonna drum up interest for the storage working group, and I know that was on his list, but I think it just got lost in the shuffle. So I'll ping him. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that's all the things from last time. Gilbert, it looks like you added something.
Yeah, because basically I think we don't have very sufficient information of each working group on the Mesos website. So for now, no matter for the mailing link and the working group agenda and working group Google Docs, we don't have a good place in Mesos website to put them together and then explicitly to tell people like what's the schedule for each working group. And considering we're gonna have more working group like API and storage, and I think we should have all those information available on the website.
Yeah, so one thing that we have is this events calendar that's under mesos.apache.org/community, and that lists all the working group meetings. But it might be good to put that maybe somewhere closer to where the working group list is.
Well, where is the working group list right now? Oh, working groups, here we are.
It is under the documentation working groups.
Okay, yeah.
Or maybe we should just link to the calendar to say find out.
Yeah, and I think we should also add the link of the Google Doc to the website. I think we already did.
Oh, like the meeting document?
Yeah, the main notes.
I'm looking at the docs right now. We could also bump up the working group items towards the top. Like right now, if you go to the community page, working groups is all the way at the bottom. Like local user groups is the first thing on the community page, which is probably not the most relevant thing to put first.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like working groups would be a good first point of contact for a lot of people who are interested in particular issues. So on the community page, and then also in the table of contents under the community section, it's at the end of that list. So I feel like bumping it up in both of those would be good.
Yeah, I think the working group should be together with the mailing list Slack channel. So those are the place or meetings people could like work with each other in the community. Yeah, probably we should move it to community page.
Yeah, I think that would make sense to me, Gilbert, to have the working groups and everything on the community page instead of just linking to them.
Yeah.
Instead of link, what do you guys mean? I'm sorry.
So if you go to /community, there's a section in there about working groups, but it just links out to this other list that's part of the docs.
Oh, yeah.
But we could just put that information straight on the community page rather than in the documentation. Then people wouldn't have to do another click to get there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's
and
a
we
short
can put
list,
it.
so.
Yeah, we could put it right under get involved.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
My only concern is a formatting concern, since there's 2 columns, and the table might be a little bit wide to fit here.
Yeah, I guess maybe if we experiment a bit, we can find something that looks reasonable.
Yep. Yeah, maybe we could put this right above the event calendar. So we have enough space for the table.
That sounds good.
Okay.
I wasn't worried about it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so yeah, maybe I should do that, and Judy and Greg to review.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And oh, hey Ben, I see that you joined. Welcome.
Hey, there's a lot of background noise on your end, Greg. We can hear a lot of people.
Oh, maybe.
I think that might
Maybe it's
Yeah, maybe from
Oh,
me.
it's-
I'm
oh,
in the office.
okay.
Let me mute myself.
Whoops. I
Nice.
guess you were. Yeah. Okay. I guess it wasn't you, Greg.
it's all good.
Yeah. I guess what I was going to say is Vinod and I spent a few hours on Friday going over Tim Anderegg, I believe his name is. He had a patch for version documentation.
Yeah, that's great.
So we spent a few hours going over that, and our initial attempt was to hopefully try to like make some minor changes and get that in, but it needed a little bit more of a reworking than we thought. So we ended up giving feedback, and I think he replied, I haven't looked at it. Yeah, so yeah, okay, he's asking more questions. So we'll get back to him again and hopefully can get this in. And while I was doing that, I realized that another potential hackathon project or something that would be great for someone to become a hero and do is if you go to the documentation on the website, there's that left-hand panel, which is, fixed to just say, if you're new to Mesos, see the getting started. If you'd like to get involved, see the community page. And so as you click into things, you don't have any kind of sense of where you are, right? There's no left-hand menu that's like showing you, okay, you're in this section underneath this area. So that's kind of generally done across every other documentation I've looked at. So it'd be great if we had something like that. Is that making sense? Everyone knows what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's like the DCOS documentation has this.
Right. Yeah. Like if you look at the Docker documentation, Kubernetes documentation, DCOS documentation, it's all got a left-hand way to navigate it.
Is there any tool allow us to do that very easily? So
I think, I think we can reuse some stuff. Or maybe I misunderstood the question, sorry.
I don't know, Ben, to me, when I looked at the docs, they all looked flat. Like the folder structure is flat. And I think that, at least in DCOS, that's what we take advantage to create the navigation.
Oh yeah, the folder structure of the docs folder itself, yeah.
Yes,
So we'd probably need to adjust that because we could at the very least make it match the home index, which is like fundamentals, build, administration, and all that. And then there are some subsections underneath that. I don't know if that would be another folder or not, but I think we could leverage that. And that's what I've noticed other projects leverage. Like when I looked into how they were generating their stuff, they had some like they had some, I don't know, it was like maybe a YAML file or some data file that says, like, it describes the structure a little bit, and then it gets auto-generated. Yeah, anyway, I just thought that would be a nice thing for someone to tackle.
Sweet. We'll put it on the list for the next Dockathon.
Okay.
So one thing I wanted to bring up really quickly is I've been noticing some spam from the IRC channel, and I was wondering if we can do anything about that, should do anything about it, who controls IRC invitations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw someone ask Vinod about it. I have no idea. I think Vinod originally set up the mirroring. I'm not sure.
I think that's true.
But I'm sure we could reach out to Apache if there's spam and see what their recommendation is as well.
Do they control the IRC?
No, I don't think so. But I think it was originally their recommendation to use IRC. I'm not sure, but I think Apache provides some support. Maybe, I don't know. We could at least check. IRC. Yeah, so there's like a listing, an Apache page that lists projects that are using IRC, and we're in there as #Mesos. So that's probably publicly scrapable by robots and stuff.
Chat page.
Is it, so do you know a little more about the spam, or?
It's just like a bunch of spammy, blacked out lines.
Oh, okay, but it's like the same handles, or it's like always changing handles, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just scroll back in general really quick and see if I can find it. I don't know if we even keep, there might be so much traffic that we don't.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know, I would think that IRC is a concept of like moderators or something that give people ownership to ban.
Here's one. So like Quebec 779 has like a bunch of weird characters and
It's giving Canada a bad name.
yeah, I know, geez. Yeah, so here's some, let's see what else.
Okay, he's not in the, or that handle's not in the room anymore, so I don't know what happened there.
Interesting. So maybe they're like joining and spamming and then leaving.
Yeah, that's harder to deal with, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just scrolling back to see if I can find the last one.
Yeah.
That makes sense. See if it was the same person or someone else.
Well, it seems like something we could also discuss, like asynchronously on the dev list too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could either take care, if there's a way for us to take care of it in IRC, that would be great. And if not, then we can probably take care of it ourselves via the link. I guess I'm assuming there's some way to exclude users from that link, but maybe not.
I think it's just a bot that pumps everything, like same room or whatever it is. I think it just sends everything from IRC to Slack.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
So should we ask Apache Infra about that? Do you think, is that the next step then?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, I can reach out to them.
Yeah, I think, well, one thing I could see them asking is just like what the nature of it is. But maybe they've got a page or something that they can point us to. I have noticed that sometimes Apache Infra is a little bit snarky if you don't quite know enough, you know?
Yeah,
But
as a good ops organization should be.
I guess, yeah.
Got to teach good behavior.
Yeah.
Shame people into knowing what
Yeah.
they're talking about. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have enough scroll back in our Slack history to see two of the spam messages at the same time. So like I found one of them, but then we run out of scroll back. So I guess I couldn't figure out how to join IRC, which baffles me every time I interact with it.
Well, I can reach out to Infra anyway and ask them if they have any experience with this kind of thing with other projects. Cool. Make contact anyway. Okay, well, I think we don't have anything else on the agenda. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to discuss?
I think 1.5 release went well. I was happy about that. And congratulations, Gilbert. Good job.
It's from you to publish all this information.
And Laura, and she said that we could probably also promote the 1.5 blog by tying it into an interview that Code EMC did with Ben Heineman a while ago. And so I'm still trying to find the time to write up an article from that interview and throw some references to 1.5 in there. So stuff's still rolling, but it's kind of slowed down a little. But I think it went well, and next one will be good too.
Cool. And where will that article be published, the one that you're talking about, Judy?
Externally, I think it's the News Stack that wanted to publish it or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's an external thing. Like external to us. But it's been sitting in my inbox for like ages.
There was something else, which was, I wonder if we should try to encourage some more blog posts from folks.
Yeah, that's one of the action items that we have is to
okay, sorry.
Some blog posts from people. No, but I would love your help actually in soliciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's another performance one that we're waiting for,
right? Yeah. I mean, there's many that could be written there. Right? There was one that I was hoping I could have MPark write on some of the JSON and API stuff that was done, and it might be a good idea to write up about like details of the JSONify thing that we have and why it was beneficial to have that and all that. I think his main hesitation was just he thought it was a lot of time commitment. Wasn't sure if he had the time to do it, but I don't know. Maybe if we
So the other thing that we could consider doing is if he wanted to sit down and talk with me about it, we could record it and then I could try and put together a blog post just by transcribing, like by basically summarizing our conversation. And that would be kind of a short road to it because he would just sit down and talk to me and then we could write it.
Yeah, that's an option.
I guess it depends on what
although in this case, yeah, I think in this case, due to the, like if he was gonna, I think it would be a little bit tricky to orally describe like the, JSONify stuff. And I mean, you'd at least want to go and grab some graphs.
Yeah, but those exist already, right? Because you presented them in the...
Yeah, some of them exist, but I think one of the reasons why Michael thought it was a lot of time was just that he wanted to generate some additional graphs.
I see.
Not just the ones that we did with Mang.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I don't know. They don't need to be perfect, right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
guys, I got to drop for the next call, but feel free to carry on.
Okay. Good
and
to see you, Judith.
I'll catch up on the notes. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I think a blog on the JSONify stuff would be great. I could talk with MPark about it too. I don't know to what extent we could help him with it, but I'm happy to distribute some of the work if possible.
Yeah, I think if we just keep it on his mind and encourage him, like he might just eventually be motivated enough to make it happen.
Yeah, and also if part of the time commitment is producing benchmarks, that's stuff that can be delegated fairly easily. If he can tell us precisely what he's looking for, I could do something for him.
Yeah. I'm not sure that he knows I'm not sure if he's thought through what he wants to write up, which is why maybe he feels that it's a lot of time. But I think if he had a solid idea on what he wanted to do, that might be more manageable.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what we could do is have someone write up just this, the API improvements. And I think Michael's hesitation there was also just that it was so bad originally that it's kind of embarrassing. Like the view in JSON was just like horrifically bad. But I don't know. Everyone makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So
we don't necessarily need to on the earlier implementation much, if at all.
We don't need to what?
We don't need to. Oh, well, I guess if we're doing benchmark improvements.
Well, like one thing is we could go back to the state endpoints and stuff before they had JSON and show how bad they were. But I think it's probably a similar story there of how bad like it was before JSONify.
Yeah.
But I think it doesn't. I mean, even the protobuf was improved, so I think there's kind of a general story. Like this is a blog post that I could write where it's just like, one of the lessons from the performance working group is just that we want to avoid copying expensive things as much as possible, like protobuf and big JSON objects where you have to malloc a lot to do so. And applying these lessons is straightforward and easy, and we kind of naively hadn't done that in the past. And doing so, gets us these improvements or whatever. I don't know. There's kind of something that we could do there. And it kind of, there's also future work that we can mention, right? And we kind of allude to what JSONify does at a high level. And that opens the door for a future blog post that goes deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we don't necessarily need a super deep technical blog post on JSONify to start with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if we went that route, you could do a performance blog post initially, maybe, and then MPart could do his JSONify after.
Yeah. So that's another option. I'd also love to sit down with someone and kind of brainstorm. Maybe that's what this action item is, to just think about what blog post we'd want. I think I have a lot more ideas in the performance related topics, like containerization, benchmarking, and things like that would be really great to have blog posts about. Or
yeah, I would love to have some benchmarks of Mesos containerizer versus Docker.
Yeah.
Different stuff.
We have an epic to check on those things, and then in that epic, we have some like specifically which items like task launch time and GC time and different factors a user is going to consider. So we can check on that in an epic.
We are also interested on this topic too.
Specifically Mesos versus Docker containerizers, Jita?
Yes. I think it's one of the final blocker for us to massively launch Mesos containerizer at scale.
Do you mean that you have found that performance is an issue and that's a blocker, or you just don't know the performance impact?
I think we just want to be cautious and honest when we roll this out. Say we want to prove it should be as good as the Docker part. If not, be honest on the data and then address them before it's too late.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds great. Let's help you guys make a good case for it and switch over. I would love to help with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually find that so funny though, because it's like the opposite path that a lot of people have taken, which is they currently use Mesos containerizer and they're afraid to move to Docker if they want to try to move all their production stuff. But it makes sense. What you're using is working mostly, I assume, and you want to move to something new. It's scary. You want to make sure it works.
Yeah, it's kind of acceptable. It's not great, but I think it's accepted. It's not the weakest point in our stack, but we want to definitely improve that. Yeah.
What point?
The Docker containerizer part is accept. I think or the things we are running is 80% good enough. Not good, acceptable, but there's a 20% which is pretty hard to address in that stack.
Okay. I've always wondered also if there's a way to capture, like, part of the value of Mesos has always been just that we care about, focus on reliability and that's sometimes been at the detriment of other things like really good documentation and ease of use. Like, I don't know, I feel like we haven't put as much energy into some of the other things, mostly because the project was born out of a production environment where the most important thing was that it was reliable. But users don't really understand this, and it's one of the things that's very hard to measure. And I haven't seen any good measurements of this for like Linux versus BSDs or other systems out there. People just kind of have a sense from using them and seeing problems, like how they get a sense from that about how reliable the system is. And like I've got my own sense of, just having seen so many issues where Docker's hung, like that's a particular thing that seems to be one of the common issues with Docker, and I just don't know if they've all been resolved or if that's still kind of an outstanding thing. But we don't really have a good way to measure this, right? Like Mesos reliability is 27% higher than the leading competing container system. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of on our users to bang that drum. No, I'm just rambling, but it's just.
Well, we could probably collaborate with some of the users to come up with some meaningful data on that. I think one of the issues we've had with coming up with good repros of Docker issues in particular is that they seem to mostly manifest in large deployments,
right,
with a lot of churn. So spinning up something like that for the sole purpose of a repro is pretty expensive. But if there are people who are already running deployments like that we might be able to get good data from, it would be great to collaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Greg here. I think our environment, I would say, it frequently sees issues. I shouldn't say constantly, but we have enough. Well, I think we have enough issues surfacing up. The problem from our side is we did not have enough manpower to capture all of them, and I don't think it really scales manually this work because it's thousands of machines. Mm-hmm. So our side had not enough investment on capturing the issues systematically and automatically. Mm-hmm. So if after that, we might be able to gather more data about all the issues surfacing.
So it's more like you'll just like restart the box or something,
yeah,
or
we're pretty much working around the symptom to get our stack into acceptable state, and we're not really digging deep enough. Mm. I personally don't have high confidence that unless our stack really invests into Docker code base itself, we'll be able to get to the bottom of them. And this is the one we feel like we don't have even enough manpower to invest into Mesos enough, but we definitely don't have enough people to read Docker source code.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like the same with Linux, right? When you run into a Linux bug, you are doomed unless you have someone who understands
exactly
Linux well and knows if that's like some bug fixed upstream, or it's pretty hard to investigate Linux bugs, at least from my experience.
But I think good documentation, experience sharing, some level of automation on collecting the data can quickly help us to know how bad the situation is, and assess the importance of for example, switching a containerizer and the impact of that. I think measuring the impact is important because we want to be able to justify, say, if we move this, for example, we can cut orphan containers by an order of magnitude down or something like that. Mm-hmm. Having those data is tremendously helpful for us.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the data is only going to come when someone does it and then has the before and after statistical information and can publish that publicly for others to benefit from.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working recently on a couple issues to improve the Docker executor and containerizer's behavior when the Docker daemon is not well behaved. So I would be interested in chatting with you about the particular issues you guys run into, what you do know of them.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested from my side too. I'm speaking for Jason, but I think he should also be interested in that.
Okay, great. Maybe I'll ping you guys on Slack. Maybe we can set up a meeting to chat about that.
Sure. And my suggestion is always, like, before you merge a fix or improvement, think about where the metrics would show up for this. Like which metrics might make a difference on the stack. I think that's really, especially for software like Mesos at this scale, metrics is to me, it's the only working solution to really understand what has changed in the cluster.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I'll put some thought into how we might be able to use metrics to evaluate these fixes we're working on.
Yeah, I think Zhidao, you can follow up on an epic Brad is working on, and I think that most of the things we currently doing are on the library level, which is under docker/docker.cpp. And I think, yeah, for the fix on for the workaround on around Docker should be okay, not have any impact on the metrics.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that on a related epics.
Yeah. So probably the containerization benchmarking we can calculate together between Mesos and Uber, and once we have some good result about like the difference between container runtime and more data about like the Mesos containerizer, we can have a proposed to reflect the benchmarking data from the Mesos containerization. Yeah, we don't have any of those information before. I don't know Uber did that internally, but yeah, at least I don't see any from outside.
So Ben, I also put a little item on the action items to set a meeting with you to discuss possible blog posts. So we could also invite anybody else who maybe send an email on the dev list. I don't know. But maybe we could brainstorm some short-term stuff that we could get out in the next month or two.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up? Zhitao, you joined recently. I don't know if there's anything on your mind you wanted to discuss.
Not really related to community meeting, just quick question on what channel you think is the best way to follow up on the GraphQL work?
Well,
what channel?
Just a channel, I should say which work group?
I mean, yeah.
I think the API working group, well, or performance. I guess it's kind of both.
It depends what your interest is, right? Like if your interest is making it so that talking to the master doesn't affect master's performance and availability, then I think you don't actually need the GraphQL portion of the work for that. And you might be more interested in just talking about moving the state serving off of the master work. On the other hand, if you're interested in the API level details of like what having something like GraphQL would be like, or the mechanisms of filtering and all that, then probably it might be a little more in the API side.
I think our most imminent work will be talking it through API rather than the UI. So from that side, I think it seems like API working group sounds fine. In the long term, we're interested in speeding up UI, but it's more like making our life better rather than unblock a project.
You're interested in integrating it with your tools and stuff?
Yes,
or
we have a tool which need to perform a really quick resolution about where a task is running at.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to, and you're assuming that's going to be faster with GraphQL, I assume, because.
Yeah, we definitely don't want the entire query right now. Because sometimes we don't know the task ID yet. We know either a label, a set of label on the task, or the prefix of the task, or something like that. So if we have an API to quickly resolve that from master, and we know it's cheap, then we can cut some other projects we can delay those projects because we don't need those things to unblock other work.
I think the quickly part is where you're going to be more interested on the performance side, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of evenly in
Yep.
both departments to me.
Mm-hmm. But I don't
yeah, I mean, are you interested because you're going to be able to contribute some time, or is it more just you want to give some feedback on how the filtering works and like that level of involvement, or?
I think I can contribute some time back on this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of time, or how much time?
I don't know the scope of the project yet. But
yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit of work, so I'm just curious if it's.
Yeah.
When is
okay.
the next performance working group meeting?
It's about a month from now.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So the first API working group meeting will be next week. So we could spend some time discussing it then, and then also in the performance working group perhaps when that comes around. I'm going to send out an email in the coming week about the API working group to try to get some attention on the agenda, maybe establish 1 or 2 items that we'd like some discussions on. So I'll be sure to include you. I guess I'll just send it out to the dev list, but you can feel free to add it to the agenda when that goes out, Shito.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, any other items for discussion, guys? No, nothing? Okay. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. I think we've got some action items for the coming couple weeks. I'll do my best to make it through the ones that I've got, and see you guys in another 2 weeks for this meeting.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks,
See ya.
everybody.